A controversial bill that is now making its way through the North Carolina House. This after a heated debate between state senators.
Carlos Flores spoke with people on both sides of the issue and has more.
Good evening, Nigel and Carol. It's a bill that some say it's supposed to bring parents and their kids closer together, but others believe it'll bring them further and further apart. Senate Bill 49, also known as the Parents' Bill of Rights and often referred to as the LGBTQ bill, is making its way through the North Carolina House. It's controversial because of a rule that would force teachers to tell parents any information their kids might be keeping from them, including the use of different pronouns or if a student is questioning their gender.
Parents have a right to all school records, including name records, medical records, any record that is with that child. The parent is the primary caregiver. The school is not the parent. The teacher is not the parent.
State Senator Greg Meyer spoke against the bill Tuesday. He says every student's home life is different.
They knew that telling their parents something about themselves, and it could be that they were gay or trans, or it could be that they were pregnant, or it could be they were using drugs or in a gang, anything, that they knew that would result in their parents kicking them out and they'd be homeless, or their parents harming them.
Supporters believe this bill allows teachers to focus on just teaching. Blue Ridge Pride, an LGBTQ+ organization in Asheville, shared their thoughts on the bill in a statement in part, "Our queer and trans youth are already vulnerable, and this bill could have serious life-threatening consequences if it moves forward. Our youth deserve a safe, affirming space. All children deserve a space that is inclusive and welcoming." Now, some parents and students think a bill like this would pose more problems than people realize.
As a parent, I feel like I really want to know what's going on with my child, but I would want that to come from my child. I feel like I have that relationship to where my kids, we would talk about this kind of thing. And I think coming from the school, I don't know how I would feel about that. And I don't think it's fair to ask teachers to do that either.
Everybody would end up knowing everybody's personal information, like their preferred name or their pronouns or their sexual identity. And it's just going to lead to so many issues of children getting outed when they're not ready. Even if they don't have a bad home life, if they're not ready, they're not ready.
The bill has passed the North Carolina Senate and is now making its way through the House before it gets to Governor Roy Cooper's desk for him to sign or veto. But for now, in Asheville, Carlos Flores, WYFF News 4.